Forti Friday webinar. Today, taking the webinar will be myself and my colleague Zach. Zach's going to run through a demo of part of what is classed as the secure architecture access. The actual part that we'll be looking into today will be the integrated wireless solution that can basically be wireless access points connected to the FortiGate. Over the next few webinars, where we will be going further into the secure architecture, secure access architecture, looking at the infrastructure wireless access and cloud wireless access. So the infrastructure is what was the old Maru wireless appliance and APs that was purchased about 12 months ago by Fortinet. So I'll now hand over to Zach that will run through the demo. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask via the messaging tab at the bottom of the meeting control panel. Okay, Zach, over to you.
Cool. Thanks, Chris. Morning, everyone. Welcome to Forti Friday. As Chris said, I'm going to go through the integrated today. The integrated is the FortiGate and FortiAP. Fortinet actually have free wireless offering solutions, free wireless solutions to offer. Integrated, obviously, we'll cover today. FortiCloud. FortiCloud, it uses smart APs. So FortiCloud itself sits on the internet and it manages the access points. It doesn't control them, like it doesn't send the traffic back to the cloud. The traffic drops locally on the network. The third one, as Chris said, is infrastructure, which is formerly Maru. And this is more of like a dedicated wireless controller. Dedicated wireless controller. And you'll probably see this one more in university. Probably the biggest thing about infrastructure is the single layer architecture. So from a client perspective, a client connecting to the wireless, the SSID is seen as one big giant access point rather than multiple cells. So this gives you the ability to control when clients roam, because by default clients choose when they're going to roam, they then get told when to roam. So it's the biggest bonus of infrastructure anyway. So all three of the wireless solutions don't require any license to connect an access point. It's all license free. The only time you do require a license is if you want to use the UTM features. So on FortiCloud and integrated, you have the ability to do URL filtering, antivirus, anti-spam and IPS. I believe anti-spam is on FortiCloud. Integrated, there is no UTM features currently. They are looking at it. So yeah, as I said, today's demo is going to be on the integrated. I'm going to demo on a FortiGate. The FortiGate, so the FortiGate family is quite huge if you don't know already. So from the 30E, 30E itself can support 2 wireless access points all the way up to the 5000 series, which supports something like 1024 access points. In total, in Fortinet's complete portfolio, including the free wireless solutions, there's 31 access points. At the end of the web demo, I'll go through the optional access points with the FortiGate. So today's demo is run on version 5.4. For you who are not familiar with the FortiGate, this is what FortiGate looks like running on 5.4. So at the moment I'm on the dashboard. On the left-hand side, you can see automation options. The dashboard and FortiView are generally where you get your statistics from. And as you go down, you get the configuration. So security profiles is UTM, and obviously wireless control is where we can do the wireless configuration today. But all these elements pretty much play a part in the wireless, because at the end of the day, the FortiGate's a firewall. And the great thing about Fortinet and the integrated is that you can use the wireless clients. When they connect to the FortiGate, they can use the UTM features. So you can use it like a firewall for the wireless. It's not just a controller or a layer 2 device where you throw it on a VLAN or possibly give it an IP address and send everything back to a central firewall for processing. It's processed on the firewall if you want it to, like tunneled clients, for example, like if guests. They jump on the wireless, go on the access points, tunnel back to the FortiGate, and that's where everything's applied. That's one of the biggest things that I like about the integrated solution anyway. So just starting off on the dashboard here, you can see in the top left throughput, our WAN throughput. On the right-hand side, you've got CPU usage, memory usage, disk usage, total number of sessions. Continuing on the right, you'll see system information here. So this is about the FortiGate at the moment. So you can see that we're running in standalone mode, high availability supported in active passive and active active. In either high availability, if the firewall fails over to the second unit, the FortiAPs will just reconnect automatically because they're sharing the same zip. They'll just see it as a bump in the connection and indicate back. You can back up and restore from the GUI as well, other system information. And then if we go down to the left here, we've got the license information. So this is what I was talking about, the UTM. There's no license for the access points to connect to the FortiGate. So let's take the 5000 series, for example. To have 1000 access points communicating back to it, there's no license involved. There's no hidden costs. But to do the UTM, so to do like web filtering, you will need a license for both FortiGate and the FortiCloud environment. Our unit is licensed for IPS, AV, web filtering, and anti-spam at the moment. And FortiCloud, I say FortiCloud, there's actually 3 different elements to FortiCloud. Originally, FortiCloud was the ability to send logs and create statistics. In this instance, for the FortiGate, it communicates to FortiCloud for logs, but there's actually very soon you're going to manage the FortiGate from the cloud, and obviously you've got a separate section for configuring the access points, the FortiCloud access points. Cool. So that's the dash. I'll continue on the demo. We'll touch on most of these tabs which are involved in the configuration, but for the moment we'll head straight to the wireless controller. So if I go to manage access points, you'll see at the moment we've got 1 access point connected to the FortiGate. So in any deployment, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure the APs communicates back to the gate before you start configuring it, because obviously you get patches in your network. So there's several different ways of doing this. The first way is you put the access point on the same network as like the interface that you're using as CatWap. I'll show you the configuration for CatWap in a second. But if it's on the same network, you'll do a broadcast. The FortiGate will see the access point and then add it to the list. It won't authorize the access point, but it will add it to the list. You've got DHCP options, so you can set a DHCP option and you can set it statically. So there's 3 different means to get access points back to the gate. There's actually 4, to be fair, because there is auto provisioning. So if you put the serial number in here and then assign a profile, when it connects, it's automatically authorized. I'd probably recommend doing that in the CLI thing, just bang 100 in at the same time. But if we go through to the access point, you can see here it's authorized. By default, when any access point connects, apart from when using provisioning, it's not authorized. So the FortiGate will see the access point, but it won't push any configuration down. It won't allow it to communicate properly with the gate. So until it's authorized, you can't actually control that access point. We've also got the FortiAP profile, which I'll cover next actually, and various other radio information you want to override for that access point. So we've got our access points connected to the FortiGate. We now need to assign them a profile. So you'll see here I've just assigned it the default profile. But if we go through to the profile options, I'll run through the options. So let's take a 31, let's take a 22B, where is it? There we go. So radio 1 and radio 2, typically radio 1 is a 2.4 channel and radio 2 is the 5. In this case, on a 32B, it's actually the first radio to 5 GHz and the second to 2.4. So there's 3 different modes that the radio can operate in on the access point. So obviously disabled, completely disabled. Access point, so this is where it's going to serve clients. Depending on the radio type, depending on the access point, sorry, WIPs is supported at the same time as serving clients. But for those which don't support WIPs at the same time as an access point, you can do a dedicated monitor where you just scan the air. It doesn't serve clients, just scans the air. Probably a good example of this is where you've got, I don't know, say a company with 2 floors, they've got 20 or 30 access points. You could put 2 or 3 access points in the whole environment dedicated to just scan the air. By dedicating the WIPs protection, you actually get the scan times like, say when it's serving clients, it will scan the air for rogue detection every second, just for example. I can't remember the true timings on the FortiGate. But if you put it as a dedicated scanner, it scans it every 100 milliseconds. So it's a real intense WIPS protection. So I tend to, like I say, deploy a load for access layer and then just dedicate 1 or 2 just to give the customer feedback. Depending on the environment, if it's quite a secure environment, you might want to have 4 or 5 dedicated access points monitoring. Chris, is my screen displaying okay? I'm just saying it's experience difficulty. Okay, anyone who can't see my screen, let me know. So here's where you would assign the WIPS for the access point. At the moment, it's got the defaults. You've got frequency handoff, so probably more relevant to the 2.4 down here. So if the client supports 5 gigahertz, what it will do is ignore the probe for anywhere between 7 to 8 attempts when it tries to probe to 2.4, and it only respond on the 5 gigahertz to push everyone up to the high data rate. If the device doesn't support the high data rate, after the probes have timed out after 10 times, it will allow them to connect to 2.4. So you can do a frequency handoff. You can do AP handoffs as well, which obviously you're going to probably want to tick, because when people walk around the environment, they're going to want to roam between access points. So on the 5 gigs, this particular AP only supports A band and M band, but the 321C, there we go, supports the AC as well. So it's phase 1 at the moment, wave 1. I think the access points for wave 2 are going to be released in literally the upcoming weeks or months. Okay, you can choose the radio channel that's on. So if there's a channel that you don't want the access point to communicate on, you can just untick them. But basically, yeah, for this one, we'll say we want to use the full wave 2, and we want to use all the spectrum available. You can also choose to auto power level, so you can choose how strong the signal is, or you can let the FortiGate aside. So obviously, just by adjusting this, adjust the power. So I'll just cover WIPS, sorry. WIPS, I'll just show you briefly. This is the rogue detection. It's not just detection, it is actually protection. So as you can see, there's a list of attacks that you can enable and protect it against, but typically people just enable the rogue detection, scanning from wire. On wire is quite a nice one because it will detect when someone's plugged an access point into, let's just say, the corporate network, and the FortiGate AP can see both the SSID and the wire, and it's detected on the rogue detection, and you can suppress it as well. So it's not just detection. I think they need to up that to protection as well. So we've got our AP, and we've got our Forti profile as well. And we need to create an SSID. So at the moment on this demo environment, we've got 2 SSIDs. We've got our guests and our staff, which I'll go through the configuration in a moment. But if I just touch on a new one, so we just give this a name of test. There's three different types of traffic modes. The first mode is tunnel mode, so everything's tunneled back to the FortiGate. So I'll just tick that quickly. You assign a network to use for that SSID, so like 192.168.0.0 for a guest, and then you can enable the DHCP server and select a range if you select an IP address. Moving, yeah, sorry, so there's more advanced options on the DHCP as well if you need to use them, like a guest network is probably a bad example, but if you were tunneling back, you can also set for corporate users, you can set NTP servers, time zones, bootstrap servers, if it's phones and stuff like that. Just moving down to the SSID configuration, in tunnel mode, it supports PSK, so pre-shared key, where everyone gets the same key. Enterprise mode, which is a radius server, so you can actually do local authentication or an external radius server. Typically a corporate environment would be enterprise. Captive portal, so back to probably the guest example again, you can display a captive portal which requires authentication, and the authentication can be local or external. So you can use the captive portal can be local or external. Also the user group can be local or external as well. So the FortiGate has the ability to create a wireless guest administrator. So you'd log into the same IP address or FGDN and the user would only have access to be able to create guest users accounts into the guest groups that you assign them to. So let's say if we assign them to guest wireless users, when they log in, they'd just be able to create a guest account and assign them to the guest wireless users. Also disclaimers supported, so if you don't want any headache for anyone administrating the guests, you can just do a disclaimer where they just connect, accept your terms and conditions, are allowed to go, and the combination of them both where you get disclaimer and authentication. My actual favourite in this one is probably this design where you actually got a PSK and a captive port. So when someone connects, probably London's a great example of this because there's so many wireless networks in London. You could have 100 people hanging on the end of your open SSID, and they're not part of the, they're not actually one of your guests. So you can set a PSK with a captive port. So you hand out the PSK in reception. When they log in, they get a disclaimer saying, you know, terms of use, and they continue. That way, you've got your protection, and you've got don't have anyone administrating them. But obviously, you can have a PSK and administrate if you want to. One of the other options, which is more relevant to clients as well, is local bridge with FortiAP. So there's only two modes supporting this because it's not tunneled back to the FortiGate. You can only do a PSK or enterprise, and that's because when a client connects to the SSID, their traffic is dropped straight onto the wire. So if you don't have a VLAN environment, it's just dropped straight onto the switch, for example. But if you have a VLAN environment, let's say your corporate VLAN is 34, you could set up a enterprise with a radius server. I haven't got one at the moment, for example. But basically, it will drop them straight onto the network on that VLAN ID of your corporate network. So probably a great example of this is if you use Bonjour. So Bonjour is a layer, it's a layer 2 protocol. It doesn't cross IP subnets. So if you've got a corporate environment where you want to have the wireless users on the same as the desktop wired users, you could use Enterprise, and they can broadcast. If you've got like a program which needs a local layer 2 broadcast, that works out great. But of course, corporate users can also be tunneled back, so you can tunnel the traffic back straight to the FortiGate. So say your wireless users are not allowed on like the desktop network, then you can tunnel it back as well. The third option is mesh. So this is basically if you've got an access point that needs to mesh, they call it leaf. So if you need something to connect back to a portal, the leaf can communicate back to the access point. That's a good example of a mesh is if you haven't got any network connections or around, like I don't know, an old Victorian building. I've spoken to a customer before where they're not allowed to install cable into the ceiling or run cables because of the type of protection it's under. So they put a portal on each floor and then an access point around the room, and it connects back to the portal. Just powered over, depending on the access point, it'll be powered over a PoE or a transformer like a wall socket SSID. Cool. So that's the new SSID. So just to show you how they're configured, this is my guest. So I've put it in tunnel mode, given it a network, assigned the DHCP range. Name, as I said, my favourite, PSK with captive portal, and I'm using the local group. Oh yeah, and sorry, and you can set a schedule on this as well. So I don't know if you create like these guys. But Monday to Friday, so this SSID will only be available between 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, because, you know, depending on your environment, you probably don't have guests there any earlier or later, or especially at weekends, if anything. So you can set a schedule on when that SSID is going to be broadcast. I believe that's available on the bridges as well. So back to staff. As I said, I don't have a radius server, but quite simply, I've just put a PSK in, and it just dropped the traffic. You can block into traffic on a bridge, so you can block a wireless client trying to go to another wireless client in bridge mode as well, if that's a requirement. So yeah, so that's our APs managed, that's the profile done, WIPs assigned if you want to, and the FortiAP profile, sorry. And if we go in here, you can see, I probably missed a step there, but you can see that our SSIDs, I've added our SSIDs here, so. No problem, Grant, no problem. So you can assign them automatically, so it just connects automatically to SSIDs, so you can have, like, say you create 5 SSIDs, just assigns it automatically, or you can do what I did, where you can select an SSID and assign the SSID to that profile. So by creating the SSID in here, we've also got our logical interfaces. Now the logical interfaces come into play when we're doing access policies. So if I just swing to the network tab, you'll see down the bottom, down here we've got our Wi-Fi networks. You'll see the whole firewall to be fair, you can see all of our other interfaces, but these are the two SSIDs. The only one really relevant for our policy configuration is the guest one, because that's tunnels. The bridge is dropped locally, so local policies applied. So probably, I think it's this network. So whatever's assigned to this network, when it gets to the firewall, will be applied. But yeah, that's logical interfaces in a nutshell. Swing over to policies. So this is how we give the user access. We've got the guest one at the top here. So I've said they're allowed to go anywhere from an IP point of view. I haven't actually changed the schedule. So you can do the schedule on the policy as well. So if you wanted to policy as well as broadcasting study, you can do it here. But I've just applied like a basic AV scan, a guest web forum profile, which I'll show you in a moment, apps control and IPS and so forth, which I'm just monitoring, to be fair. I'm only interested really in blocking guests trying to get to, I don't know, adult content or something. And then for the bridged SSID, your corporate users, you're down into this policy. So because you're dropped locally on the network, you then apply to the local interface. So when they go to the internet, they get AV, whether they're in. But they've also got like a DNS filter. We're doing a bit of SSL inspection and anti-spam as well. So a bit of all in here. So that's how you allow users to go through the firewall from a wireless network, especially with tunnel. Tunnel, you know, guest is in my example, but if you have corporate users that you want to tunnel back, the destination might not be straight to the internet. You might have like, the customer might have multiple VLANs where they want to drop the wireless users to access certain servers. Let's just say Citrix, for example, and stuff. So you can apply exactly the same policy to the wireless user as if they're wired, as you can see. So if I just click through, this is basically the configuration. You can see incoming interface, outgoing interface, and then the policies that we've applied. So I'll just swing over to the security profiles, because even though this is a big thing with the FortiGate UTM, as I said, it's relevant to wireless users as well. So here's the antivirus. I've just applied the default for a minute onto the wireless users. So you've got default AV. I don't actually know any other wireless vendor that does antivirus scanning on the wireless network. So that's a big plus with the FortiGate in my eyes. And then web filtering. I've got my guest URL filtering profile here. So you can see I've got blocked, potentially liable, adult material, underrated. A couple of other nice options as well. So I don't know, I guess with like OpenDNS, you only get URL filtering. So if the customers opt in for like a real cheap wireless solution, at least if they buy a FortiGate and they're using the wireless solution with their corporate users, it comes with a guest as well, so you can use the guest web filtering too. So you get these nifty little features like block invalid URL. So if the URL is invalid, it's not a real URL, it gets blocked. And then one which I like as well, which is, this one, image rating by URL. So if there's an image on the page that belongs to a URL that you're blocking, it will block the image. So a nice little feature of the URL filtering. Like I said, you've got application control, you've got intrusion protection if you want to use it. You've actually got the whole full feature of the security profile on the left-hand side there. So you could block corporate users from social media on the wireless rather than when they reach the other end of the firewall. So if they have got like a sneaky little back door which bypasses the firewall to get to Facebook, you can actually block them on the FortiGate before they even get to that sneaky little back door as well. So yeah. So that's the UTM element as well. So just the last piece in the web demo is the replacement messages. So you don't really need to buy like a NAC solution to do custom web pages on the FortiGate, because you've got the authentication on the FortiGate, you've got the radius as well back in. You can customize the login page. So this is Fortinet's default, obviously. But there's a nice little section here where you can manage your images. So I've put our exclusive one here, and if I return, I've done a nasty little mock-up of that label being used. So for those of you which do understand HTML, this is the HTML, this is where you change the logo. And if you fully customize this capture form, so you just want to get rid of everything, these are the values that you need to carry across in the form. So like magic ID is quite important for returning back to the FortiGate. So for fully custom, so the FortiGate does support a complete customization of this page. And if you wanted to, you could do a redirect from this page to a web server. As long as those values there are on that page when it does the submit, then everything will work comfortably. So this is my exclusive networks logo change. So you can see it's quite nasty, but you get the general idea. The logo can go in there, and there you've got the password field here. You can change basically change everything on the page. And actually the same with like application block, AV and stuff like that. So just back to the guest scenario, if you wanted to make it a little slicker for the guests, you can customize the pages and the corporate users as well, of course. So this is the default. Some of the ones dragging that up. There we go. This is the default block example of Facebook. Excuse me, and you can see it's the guest group that was blocked, a URL they were going to, an IP address, and so forth. So completely customizable. Cool. Yeah, so that's all the elements on the FortiGate of the wireless controller. I hope that's been helpful. I've dug a little bit deeper because, from a marketing point of view, they sell their solutions as the wireless solutions. So when we talk to customers, we try not to go too deep into how it works or discuss individual wireless solutions until we fully understand what they're looking for. As I said, there's Fortinet wireless solutions is how we start the conversation, and then if you break it down into three, you've got the integrated cloud and infrastructure, and that's a deep dive on the infrastructure. Just to finish off the demo, I've got some screenshots of the access points that are supported by the FortiAP. So you can see here it's got, by the FortiGate for the FortiAP. You can see at the top here you've got integrated indoor access points. So nice variety. You've got AP point, like a single radio, dual radio, and right at the bottom there's quite a nice little recommendation they've given, which is a very recommendation-y. Just to give you an idea of when you're talking to a customer and you say how many wireless users are you going to connect into the access point, or how many users do you have in your environment, down the bottom here where you give you a good idea of roughly how many clients are connecting to the access point. I would probably see the high end of the 128 sitting in like event environments, so like I don't know, let's just say a stadium or a festival or something like that, because the users want to be able to connect to it, but they're not going to transmit any data until they start using it. So typically I always go on the recommended value, to be honest, and depending on how heavy the environment needs to be, like if it's a heavy usage environment, I'll probably start reducing those recommendations as well. Anyway, so these are the indoor integrated access points. Anything else interesting? Yeah, so they support AB, GN, and AC. Moving along, you've got the remote access point. So you could give like telework is a good example of, they could take a FAP home with them, and then they communicate back to the FortiGate. Very similar statistics at the top as the integrated, but if you look at the bottom, the recommended usage drop quite dramatically, because the idea of the access point is to be on the fly like a remote office. So you've got the home access point as an option as well. Moving along to cloud access points. So I'll just start on the cloud FortiAPCs. So these are the new access points. These access points are designed for FortiCloud and integrated, and probably the design of these are more for like hotels. So typically in a hotel, when you've got a floor of rooms and you need to cover 5 rooms, 10 rooms for example, you're probably going to need 2 or 3 access points. If you're looking at the integrated side of things, it might work out a bit more expensive than some of the other competitors. So Fortinet have designed some FortiAPCs with slightly cheaper hardware and inside, but you can have like 20 people connecting to it, or 20 people connecting, 32 max sort of thing. I see these as like, you don't really want more than 10 clients connecting to them, very similar to the remote AP, depending on the environment of course, but I just think the great example of these is areas like hotels where you need coverage but you haven't got a high density of users. So swinging back over to the FortiAPS, once again, these were designed for the cloud. So when you connect these to the FortiCloud, you can use the UTM features, if you have a license on the FortiCloud, to apply it to the access point. So when a user connects to the wireless network, they get to the access point, UTM's applied. And that's what's great about these access points of FortiCloud. In a FortiGate environment where you're using it just as a FortiAP, you can't use UTM, but the hardware in these access points are just much more powerful than the standard like integrated access points. So I see these as great opportunities for high density environments where you've got an open, they've got an open plan office, they've got a couple of hundred users, you've got access points which are close to each other. These are the APs I'd go for. And as you can see down the bottom, you know, you've got per radio, you're looking at 50 users. So the hardware inside these access points are much more potent than the standard FortiAPs and definitely the APCs. The last one in the portfolio is the FAPU, the Universal Access Point. The Universal Access Point doesn't support UTM, but it does support all of the free wireless offerings, so it's integrated cloud and infrastructure. The idea of these access points is, say you have a FortiGate and the customer wants to buy, let's say, 50 access points. They put them around their environment. They acquire more of the building, so they're in a rented building, and they want to pump it up to 100, 200 users. They want to go real high density. You know, they're putting a load on them. What you can do is you can actually just switch it to the infrastructure. So I think a great example of these is small environment cloud. If they need to move up, go to the gate. Typically, you're going to see universal APs move from FortiGate to infrastructure. So it's quite nice, universal across the board. So yes, that's the web demo and a brief view over the FortiAP portfolio. As I said, there are 31 access points, but these are the real relevant ones. And I think what's going to happen over the next year, they're going to start whittling some of them out because, let's just take the FAP 21C on the middle of the screen here and the FATB. Literally, the only difference between, oh, sorry, that's a bad example actually because they're 1560. But they've got square access points, they've got round access points, and I think they're just going to standardise them, so they're going to take their portfolio down in size. So yeah. So I hope you've enjoyed the demo and for your Friday. I'll just check if there's any questions. Do speak up if there's any as well. I won't be a moment. No, I can't see any questions. So thank you for your time this morning. And like I say, I hope that's been informational and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Yeah. Cheers, Zach. Thanks for that. Just to let you know, guys, the next Forti Friday technical chats will be on the 21st of October, and that will be on Forti Sandbox. And then the next one after that will be the 4th of November, and that will be infrastructure wireless. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you next time on Forti Friday.